Republican Congressman. Trey Gowdy is with us. Guys, good to see you. Devin, I begin with you. You know, it's interesting because we kind of have to sometimes pull back a little bit and start at the beginning. All of this could have been prevented if people listened to your warnings and your admonitions and your article in early 2014 warning that the hostile regime of Vladimir Putin, the hostile actors in Russia, would be doing this very thing. Nobody did a thing to stop this from happening.
Sean, and I thought Jay Sekulow did a great job of running through with the American public and your viewers everything that is starting to come together now. This is all stuff that Trey and I worked on for two years until he left us and went and joined Fox and now wrote a book. But and I'm not faulting him for that, but this is all the pieces of the puzzle are starting to come together. That was how I knew from the beginning that this was all a hoax, was because the Obama administration had not only ignored what the Republicans in the House were telling them to do and our concerns that we were raising about Russia, they weren't even willing to spend the money that we were giving them.
Yeah. You know, Trey Gowdy, you kind of impressed me a little bit. You're a guy that used to be a prosecutor. I watched you. You've had a lot of good moments when you drill down into somebody. It usually gets pretty hot for that person because you base things on facts. I want to ask you, what are the main questions you think are unanswered by Robert Mueller? I watched you in Benghazi. I've watched you in some other moments. You're a prosecutor that's never lost a case. What would you ask him? What needs to be answered?
Well, Sean, first of all, thank you very much for having me on. I want you to think in terms of buckets, and I frankly would start. Keep in mind, Devin and Jimmy and Ratcliffe only have 5 minutes, so you have to be very strategic and have a pretty narrow goal. Start with bias. You got rid of Peter Strzok because he wanted Clinton to win and Trump to lose, but yet you hired people who wanted Clinton to win and Trump to lose. So how much bias are you willing to put up with? You fired Strzok, but you hired a bunch of prosecutors who felt the same way. Number two, someone needs to ask about this legal issue. If you can resist an unlawful arrest, can you resist an unpredicated investigation, which forces Mueller to go to the origins of this Russia investigation and how much time did he spend siphoning through that? Then I would go to what did you find? No collusion, no criminal collusion despite 2 years. What did you not find? An indictable offense for obstruction of justice. And then this is a category, and I would encourage Devin and Jimmy to think about this. What did you not bother to look for? Y'all just got through talking about Samantha Power and other people in the American government that may have wanted to influence either an election or an administration. We spent 2 years focused on whether a foreign country was going to influence or interfere with our election. Mueller, did you look at our own government? Did you look at what our own people were doing to maybe put their finger on the scale? Did you interview Christopher Steele? Do you know which Russians were feeding dirt to the American electorate via the DNC? Did you interview Glenn Simpson? Did you interview Jim Comey about why he leaked those memos? So there are 5 categories. There's bias, the legal issues, what did you find, what did you not find, and then importantly, what did you not even bother to look for?
Yeah, that's a great point. Let's go to these new developments based on the FOIA request granted the ACLJ, Devin Nunes, and that would be Samantha Power, 350% increase in unmasking in 2016. That seems excessive to me. My understanding of surveillance and unmasking of American citizens, there are very strict guidelines. And when an American is identified in a phone call with perhaps somebody that we ought to be surveilling, if they're not involved in any nefarious activity, we practice something called minimization. And if the report is written up, the American is not identified. But we do know unmaskings were rare, and then we had this increase in activity. How does that tie into everything that you investigated as it relates to the so-called collusion that never occurred? But when you factor it in to a rigged investigation into Hillary, in my opinion, and then, of course, a premeditated fraud on the FISA court, not once but 4 times, that seems problematic.
Well, you have probably the 2 best possible guests you could have on tonight for this question, because I was the one who uncovered through sources that these unmaskings had occurred. So we ran an unmasking investigation. Trey is the right guy to have on tonight because he's the one who interviewed and ran the interview of Samantha Power. What is just unexplainable in all of this is, how on earth did you unmask this many people? It was hundreds and hundreds of unmaskings. So what I said from the very first day when I briefed the Republicans on the committee, what I couldn't make any sense of is that why there were so many unmaskings of Trump transition officials during the transition time period. And then later, what we know, we can't get into the specifics of it, but there were pieces of that intelligence that was leaked. And that's not explainable, and Mueller should have to answer that too. Did he ever look into all of these leaks?
You know, I look at, if we lose Trey Gowdy, you're an attorney. Our Constitution is the basis, the foundation of our rule of law. Equal justice under the law, equal application of our laws. Very, very important concepts and principles. And more importantly, I think if we don't protect the civil liberties, these tools of intelligence can spy on every single word ever stated by any one American. These are powerful but necessary tools in an evil world, and we entrust, I believe, the best intelligence people in the country, 99% of them, with these powerful tools to protect us. But if they're turned on the American people, or they abuse these powers and they ignore civil liberties and Miranda rights and the proper procedures to obtain a warrant where they would have a right to listen to a conversation, what is the danger?
Well, Devin tried to get some reforms when we did some reauthorizations, and a guy you may have heard of named Schiff from California insisted that those reforms not be part of the reauthorizations. There was a request, an unmasking request, if memory serves me, Devin, the day of the inauguration. So you got people that got 30 minutes left in their service to the country, and they're making an unmasking request. Here's where I lose a little bit of patience. Devin did a great job, but we have the head of the CIA. We have the head of the DNI. We have the head of the NSA. If we still have unmasking questions, we shouldn't have to go to the Hill or Jay Sekulow to get the answers. These are people that we put in position. Right. So, Devin, you ought to be able to pick up the phone and find out what happened with this increase in unmasking requests.
All right, gentlemen, great job, both of you. You guys have peeled away that onion every day. Thank you. When we come back, Alan Dershowitz says the Democrats will regret calling Mueller to testify. He's next with Sarah Carter, Greg Jarrett. Later, incivility of the left reaches now new lows. We'll tell you about what happened to Eric Trump